Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lars, aka Sir Lars Med, and today I wanted to shift gears a little bit, talk about top 5 mistakes I see people making in PvP, and this is stuff I either see in person or I see people, on Reddit complaining about, and I really wanted to touch base on this, and some of these mistakes you might be aware of, and some of them you might be doing without even really knowing. So let's go ahead, let's go down the list, and as always, like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, any feedback, if you like the list, if you don't like the list, let me know. And with that, let's do it. So how many times have you been stuck in a scenario and you make a mistake? You don't know what to do or you get confused. That's all part of not knowing your team. You need to get to the point with that team that you know how much damage it's going to do to X Pokemon, how much damage that Pokemon's going to do to yours, when to bait, when to shield. You need to be so in tune and sync with that team that it has to be almost mechanical. So you know exactly when to do, what to do, when to do it. Lots of muscle memory to where you're not thinking. It sounds crazy, but the more you think, the more you tend to overthink situations. But if you can build that cachet of knowledge, then it's just going to be like second nature to you. And the more time you spend with that team, the more you're going to be comfortable with it. You don't want to go around constantly switching teams up. And if you have a bad team, totally fine to switch it up. But if you have a decent team and you just start to lose, switching should be like your very last option. You want to try to change up your strategy, change up your charge moves, do whatever you can. Try not to change teams too much because it's just going to be a hassle, especially if you do more leagues than just great. Then you have to remember, your Great League team, your Ultra League team, all these teams, if you start switching it up, you get confused, you forget. Try to stick with just one, at least for the season. Get comfortable with it. Trust me. 25 a day play. Now, that sounds kind of weird, a little rhyme there. That's what my wife and I call it, but essentially what it is what happens when people, instead of just doing a couple leagues, they do all the leagues, and I'm not even like exaggerating. At the end of the day, they'll always get that little prompt that says, hey, you have done too much, you can't do any more. If that's happening for you each and every day throughout the season and you're struggling, you need to switch it up. And one of the things I suggest to people is to only do Great League and Ultra League. And I personally just do Great, but you want to shy away from Master League, Open Master League especially. And I have nothing against people that spend money on this game. There are people out there that spend tens of thousands of dollars on season tickets to like a baseball game, whatever. But the problem is, if you're new to PvP, if you've been doing it a while, you really have to spend a lot of money to compete at the master level. If you're not willing to spend that money, you're going to bomb and tank. You need to be able to have those level 50 legendaries, and if you don't have the coin for it, it's not going to happen. So my suggestion is, just do 2 leagues, take a break, build up your stable of Pokemon, and once you build up that stable, start doing the fun cups, because a lot of them overlap. Like, you'll build something for great, you can use it for, a fun cup, whatever. Stay away from Master Open. This is especially true since they have been doing Premier, but it's a little flighty, it went away, it came back, whatever. And then, now that the leagues are, every 7 days. Before, when it was 2 weeks, you could have some time to kind of like adjust. But now what happens is people fail at the start, they build back up that their elo, and then at the end of the week, time to switch. Don't be like that. Go into each league knowing what to do right off the bat. And it kind of harkens back to number 5, right? So don't do all the leagues unless you're like a genius and can remember everything ever, all right? Trust me, your elo will suffer if you play every single day and you don't know what you're doing. You should ask yourself, am I 100% confident with this team? I can use it now. I know what to do. If the answer is no, just hang back a little bit. Take a break. Treat yourself. Do whatever. Just don't try to overstretch yourself, all right? It's going to hurt you in the end. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to quit. So at number 3, we have stress/counting. And what does that mean, Lars? Well, it means that you need to learn how to count, all right? Yes, there are people that can reach 24 without counting, but they are putting themselves at a major disadvantage. Why? Well, when you don't know how to count, things can get stressful. What do I mean by that? If you took a poll of the top reasons why people quit PvP, what would they be? Number 1 would probably be there's an algorithm and I'm mad about it. I keep losing because of it, so I'm done. Number 2 would be stress, and stress is such a killer. I remember before I learned how to count, I would be like, oh, I should have won this battle, and then I'd get really angry. You know what I mean? Like it would just be, I would be wrecked, especially if it happened like back to back. But once you learn how to count those last few moments in the battle, you know how they're going to go, and you can just quit. Or if you get lucky, sometimes they'll lag, but for the most part, you know how the battle's going to go, which makes life so much more, just less stressful. And with counting, some people will say it's not really worth the effort because it's a lot of research and a lot of training for very little like cost reward thing. But in the long run, it's 100% worth it, especially if you plan on doing PvP for a long time, just because it's going to help you with your team. It's going to help you win those close battles. It's going to help you switch, to know when to switch, to know when your opponent's going to get that charge move off, when you need to switch, and all of a sudden, now that Frenzy Plant, instead of hitting Swampert, it's going to hit Registeel or something, So, you need to learn how to count. Super important. Please do it. I'm going to do a video on it in a week or two. I'm going to make it as easy and painless as possible. There are actually a few different ways to count. My wife actually, I'm trying to get her to teach everyone. She has a really, really good way of doing it. But yeah, that's number 3, stress/counting. And with that, we are at number 2 of the top 5 biggest mistakes that people make in Pokemon Go PvP, according to yours truly. And here at number 2, we have PvPoke. Now, I can already hear people yelling at me in my head saying, oh, Lars, But let me explain. I am in no way throwing any shade at PvPoke. I think it is an amazing resource. It is great. I use it all the time. I know you guys use it all the time. A lot of people, anybody who's anybody, I guess, in Pokemon Go uses PvPoke, right? Here's the thing. It's such a great resource that people tend to just gravitate towards it and only it. They don't take anything else into consideration. And so, good example, a couple weeks ago, someone went on Reddit and said, hey, guess what? I made this amazing team. PvPoke says it's number 1, but I'm kind of bombing. I think I won like 5 battles out of 25. What's going on here? The team had A's up and down. Here's the deal. PvPoke, amazing, but it's a resource, and it's just a resource. At the end of the day, you need to know your team, which, like we talked about earlier, got to know your team. You can't expect PvPoke to build you this great team and for you to take it all the way to 24 without doing any work, right? It's not going to happen. You have to know your team, know when to switch, all that fun stuff, okay? Other thing, this is really important. Simulations on PvPoke. Most of them are correct, but there are a lot of them that are good in theory, but they don't really translate into being applicable in an actual battle. Same thing goes, there's a few that are like, it says that this Pokemon can beat this other Pokemon, but X, Y, and Z needs to happen, with X, Y, and Z being really improbable. You're not going to see it a lot. as far as moves go, baiting and stuff. And so you have to really look into that and test it out yourself, okay? So again, great resource, amazing, I love it, but please, at the end of the day, it's just a tool, and you need to use all the tools in your toolbox, not just one. Otherwise, you're gonna get burned. And now the moment you guys have been waiting for, the number one biggest mistake that I see, and trust me, if you've been doing everything else on our list and you're still failing, it's probably because of this reason, okay? So the number one biggest mistake, not being able to identify those Evo walls, also known as micro metas. Basically what it is, you'll get to a point in your elo and you can't get any higher, and you're like, man, I don't know what's going on. Starting to see different Pokemon. I really need to change it up. Don't know what's going on. You finally get past it, and then you just start to breeze until you hit the next wall. And what that is, there's these little micro metas that hang out, and you'll see it, for example, around rank 24 Legend. Once people have reached Legend, there are plenty of people that do not continue, and so they'll throw some spice in their team, stuff that they wanted to use but they didn't want to tank so far near the end. You'll also see it, from what I've been told, in the lower elo ranges. There's this weird transition zone. So there's that, for example. And there are other examples. Last season, 3200 Nidoqueens, as far as the eye could see, they were everywhere. Everyone had them. And then when I got to 3400, it was like maybe 4 or 5 per 25 battles. Not very many. So there's just that, right? You have to be able to identify it. Most importantly, you have to be versatile. Switch up your strategy. Don't switch up your team. Switch up those charge moves if need be. But the most important thing you can do is switch up your strategy. So many people get to that wall and they say, I'm going to try a different team. Guess what? Now your opponent's, like, probably by luck of the draw, they're going to have the stuff that you could have beat with your previous team. So you go back and forth, and it's this never-ending cycle. Don't do it. Stay with the same team if it's been working, and if it's a good team, change up the strategy. Always go for strategy over Pokemon when it comes to changing up. Also, you gotta research those metas, okay? There are plenty of meta teams out there. A lot of them are put together by either PvPoke or influencers. And if you start to see a team once, twice, 3 times, chances are that it's a popular team and people are using it. Nothing wrong with pre-built teams, okay? Nothing wrong with them. But when you start to see them over and over again and you're able to identify them, it gives you a chance to build a strategy around it. So it's really important that you do that. And you're not going to win every time. Obstagoon, Skarmory, Nidoqueen, the opponent has that versus my Bastiodon, Medicham, and Shadow Victory Bell. That one I win about 60 to 70% of the time. It's one of my higher bad lead wins, just because I've seen it so much the last season and this season, and I'm able to create a strategy for that. And it's important that you do the same when you start running into the same thing. Okay? So, please, please, please understand that it's always important to change up your strategy, never your Pokemon. Really important. If there's one thing I could tell you today, because there will be people that say, you know what, change up your Pokemon, change up your Pokemon. If it's not working, change it up. It's going to be a headache because you got to learn all this other stuff. Change up your strategy. You'll be able to do it. Trust me. And with that, there's our list. Top 5 biggest mistakes, according to me, in Pokemon Go PvP. Tell me, do you agree with the list? Do you disagree with the list? Do you have any questions, or maybe want me to expand on anything further? Just let me know. Leave me a comment, and while you're at it, go ahead and like and subscribe. And trust me, it means the world to me. You have no idea, guys. So for now, I'm going to be working on that other video showing you my 1 league, 1 team. I want it to be a little bit better quality, so it's still chugging along. Wanted to put this up, and just for now, and in a couple days, I'll release the other video. But yeah, have a great rest of your day, and thank you again so much.